additional information other than simply that. We have seen that poster that you're seeing to his left, our right, of Antonio Baker. Unsure of the connection of that person in this. However, again, they've called this press conference asking for help related to a missing teen case here in Cuyahoga County. This is a fairly rare instance when it comes to a missing person.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
And we will now bring you live to Michael O'Malley, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor.
County Prosecutor, and I'm here with Pete Elliott, U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of Ohio. In my 6 years as your county prosecutor, I've never had to have an event like this where we are seeking the public's help in finding an individual, in particular an individual who in this case is a juvenile. But circumstances over the last 2 days have necessitated this press conference today because of the danger that this individual poses to our community and also the danger that I believe he is in as a result of his previous actions. Again, we need the public's help today in locating 17-year-old Antonio Baker. I want to stress that this is an emergency situation. Again, we do not normally disseminate juvenile information, but we are absolutely concerned for the public's safety. We need the public's cooperation, and we need to locate him, or it is very likely that there will be more individuals within the city of Cleveland who lose their lives, or in fact, Mr. Baker may lose his life. Antonio is a danger to the public. He currently has 4 active cases. As you can see from the easel, there was 2 incidents earlier this year where he was charged with aggravated robbery. Then on August 7th, he shot an individual 3 times in the abdomen. On August 20th, he shot another individual 6 times in the back. Finally, on September 20th, at Arbor Park, there was an individual riding a bicycle. Antonio Baker and 2 other individuals, as the individual was riding away, and you'll see this video in a minute, but the individual was riding away on a bicycle, and the 3 individuals in the playground opened fire on this individual and shot him in the back and killed him. So in a nutshell, Antonio Baker, in the span of about 5 weeks, has shot 3 individuals. Additionally, on Monday night, we believe Antonio Baker himself was shot as he was at university hospitals, was checking in or going into for some medical assistance as he was shot, but when police arrived at the scene, he fled. When I became aware of this information 2 days ago that we had an individual with 2 attempted murder warrants and a murder warrant also, so 3 warrants for shooting people, I immediately called the U.S. Marshal and sought his assistance in trying to apprehend this individual, along with his 2 co-shooters from the September 20th shooting. Last night, as the U.S. Marshal Service and their deputies were scouring our community looking for these 3 individuals, and again, their ages are 15, 17, and 18. Antonio was 17. But while the marshals were looking throughout our community for this individual, the 15-year-old was shot and killed last night. That investigation continues, but what it did was highlight the fact that we need to get Antonio Baker off the street before he is either shot or kill somebody. I want to note that the U.S. Marshal Service did apprehend the 18-year-old last night, so he is in custody. So the only individual out from the September 20th homicide is the 17-year-old Antonio Baker. Again, it's critical we have the public's support in finding him. We have been searching him for several days. It's our understanding that he is extremely armed, and we know him to be dangerous. You want to play the video, Lex? What you will see here is an individual on a bicycle talking to, there's 3 individuals here in this playground. As he's riding away, and this is in Arbor Park, as he begins to ride away, he is 22 years old, this victim. He is harmlessly riding away, and you will see the 3 individuals step back with 2 handguns and an automatic, an assault weapon, and begin to shoot the kid as he's riding away on a bicycle. He is hit. He begins to flee. He runs about 30 or 40 yards. He collapses and he dies on the spot. That occurred on September 20th. Good luck. Again, the adult who has been arrested in connection with this is Bryce Tanksley. This is a picture of Antonio Baker. We need the public's assistance in apprehending this individual. Again, this is an emergency situation. Not just do we fear for the public's life, we fear for his life, as his co-defendant in the charged murder case is now deceased. It is very possible that if he is not brought into custody safely, that he is also the target, potential target as well. I would like to bring up U.S. Marshal Pete Elliott. Want to turn lights on?
Thank you, prosecutor. So just to add to that, at first I want to appreciate, I know the Cleveland Police Homicide Unit is here, and they have done a phenomenal job, as they always do, working on these investigations. There's members of the Cleveland Police Department, U.S. Marshal Service right now on the streets looking for this individual, Mr. Baker. What I would say to Antonio Baker is the opportunity is yours right now to self-surrender. Make it easy for everybody, including your own family. This morning, again, we did make an arrest on Mr. Tanksley, age 18, on Bundy Avenue in Cleveland for aggravated murder. But I will stress this again to Antonio Baker personally. Turn yourself in. Go to your local police department, the Cleveland Police Department. Turn yourself in. Anybody with information out there, we want you to call either 911 or call our hotline at 1-866-4-WANTED. There is reward money available right now if you provide the right tip. So thank you, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Any questions?
So there's been 4 different incidents
Oops, I'm sorry.
March through September involving Mr. Baker. Why now? Why haven't we heard about this before now?
Well, on September 7th, his 2 attempted murder warrants were issued. Law enforcement prioritizes who they search for. We certainly have many individuals who they are seeking, and I think Pete can give you the numbers, but like in the last several months, they've arrested 20 individuals who actually have warrants for homicides. So they have to prioritize, and it would be great that they could arrest everybody as soon as the warrants were issued. But the reality is, like every branch of law enforcement, CPD, CMHA, every agency is short of manpower. And so they prioritize. These individuals had their warrants for 2 weeks before he committed the homicide on September 20th. Once that they were ID'd, the investigations determined that they were in fact were responsible for the homicide. The priority of their capture became extremely high, which is why the U.S. Marshals have been looking for them for 2 days. I sat there when I asked the U.S. Marshal for help. I didn't, nor could I, imagine that one of the individuals they were seeking would be also killed before they could detain him. And I am in a position today knowing that. The question is, what do we do as law enforcement? Do we continue to remain and hope that we find him, or do we do the best we can to try to bring the public into play now, knowing that his life is probably in danger, as well as the lives of the public based upon his previous actions? So based upon the fact, again, he became a high target in the last several weeks once the murder warrant was issued, but it's even higher now that one of his co-defendants in that case has also been murdered. Yes?
The two attempted murders and the actual murder, where did those happen? And do you guys have any idea where Baker might be right now?
Well, the murder on September 20th happened in Arbor Park. The attempted murders happened at, let me see here. The first one happened on East 49th in Outhwaite, which is right in that neighborhood as well. And the second one happened at 5307 Woodland, which is also in that neighborhood. So he's obviously in the central neighborhood near Outhwaite, near Arbor Park. Due to the fact that he's familiar with those areas, we imagine he's in that area somewhere.
Any relevant statistics, such as, do we know how many juveniles have been killed in the county this year? And how many have been arrested?
Well, I can tell you this. With the charging of this case, it brings the total number of juveniles charged this year with homicide for murder, ag murder. Sadly, we have broke our record. We are now up to 36, and we still have a quarter left. Last year's number was 35 in 12 months. We now have 36, really through 9 months. We still have another quarter to go. Clearly, it demonstrates the level of violence we are seeing amongst juveniles in our community. We can get you the stat on juvenile homicides. We keep track of those as well. But it's all going up. I don't have to tell anybody, just in the last 7 days, we saw a 3-year-old murdered in my former ward of Tennyson Avenue who took a bullet to the back while sitting in a car seat. This senseless violence continues to escalate. The proliferation of guns, the availability of guns, the comfort that juveniles have when using weapons continues to plague our community. And it's an unfortunate reality. You know, I just had to talk to the victim's family from the September 20th homicide. They are heartbroken. They have fear themselves because of the senseless violence that's going on in their neighborhoods. And we as a community need to come together and attempt to get a handle on these juveniles with guns. Because I can tell you, my experience certainly has led me to believe that juveniles with guns are far more dangerous than adults with guns.
The incident between March and September, the victims, were these people at random or were they well known to?
I don't have details on that. Eric, any familiar?
I know Chad is more familiar with it.
Come on, Chad. Any familiarity?
So we believe, with respect to March and April at least, we believe that was an ex-girlfriend of Antonio Baker that then spun out to other incidents. With respect to the other shootings, we believe those were local community members. No further associations that we know of.
Again, it's critical the public sees this individual. We'll put his picture up here. But for the community's sake, as well as his own, it is our hope that what we have done here today will go a long way in protecting the community as well as Mr. Baker. The last thing any of us want here is another individual being carted into the county morgue. And Given our options, we felt this was the best way today to try to prevent that by going public and seeking the public's assistance, and so that we can safely bring Mr. Baker into custody.
This is obviously a non-traditional approach. Can you talk a little bit about retaliation on the street and kind of the trends you've been seeing with that? Since obviously he's had murder charges.
Yeah, I would just say, so often, let me just say, this is non-traditional because when I found out this morning that the 15-year-old was murdered last night in King Kennedy, it highlighted the urgency to bring him into custody for his sake as well as the public's. We have been getting reports that he is armed and on the streets in that neighborhood, and I fear for that community as well as Mr. Baker. So our options were to continue to search for him, hoping that we would get a lead, or doing this publicly with the hope that the public will assist us in bringing this situation to an end. So it is. Now, as far as the retaliation, we see it far too often in our community. We see the tit for tat. I was just discussing it with the victim's family, that too often we are seeing one senseless homicide lead into another senseless homicide rooted in retaliation. And people need to let the criminal justice system do its job. We need cooperation from the people in the streets, the people in that community, and let the justice system do its job and try to hold people accountable, because answering guns with guns is never the solution.
To be clear, it's believed he was shot on October 2nd, not August 2nd, because on the poster behind it says August 2nd.
No, this was just Sunday night going into Monday. We believe there was a shooting incident on St. Clair between 18th and 22nd where Antonio Baker was hit. He went to University's hospitals. It's our understanding that when he was approached by law enforcement, he fled, which is understandable given the fact that he has warrants out for both attempted murder and murder.
Is there any, are there going to be any attempts going out in the neighborhood and reaching out to people, putting out flyers and anything like that? I know obviously this is probably very immediate.
This was very immediate. We figured this is the best way to get the message out quickly. Again, when I received the text this morning that the 15-year-old was now deceased, it put it to a level of urgency that caused this press conference to be scheduled. Again, we don't want anyone hurt. We want Antonio Baker to be safely brought into custody and let the justice system play out.
Do you know who shot the 15-year-old?
That investigation is continuing.
Could it be him?
I just know the investigation continues.
The 18-year-old you guys apprehended yesterday, could you spell his first and last name?
Sure. It's Bryce, B-R-Y-C-E, Tanksley, T-A-N-K-S-L-E-Y. We believe, our investigation has led us to believe that he was one of the three shooters in that park, along with Antonio Baker and a juvenile who was murdered last night in King Kennedy.
How did he get to UH?
Automobile.
So how did you all determine that he was potentially one of the victims, well, not the victim, but one of the individuals shot that evening?
On October 2nd?
Yes.
I believe the investigation revealed that we had evidence that it was he who was seeking treatment and that he fled upon seeing law enforcement. Again, as is understandable given the fact that he has multiple warrants out for violent felonies.
For those living in the central neighborhood where you think Baker might be, where some of his other crimes took place, do you have any advice for people who live there, considering some of these crimes look to be, involving people that he didn't even know?
Well, I think the central community, that Outhwaite and Arbor Park are like adjacent. They abut each other in that neighborhood. And I think that community and all of our communities need to come together and stress to juveniles that guns are not the answer. And what we're seeing, it appears to be an escalation where they are trying to obtain weapons to even outgun each other. We're now, we're also seeing situations where assault weapons are being used, that a simple handgun isn't enough. In that video that you just saw, one of the weapons being fired at the individual on the bicycle was an assault weapon. Sadly, if you look at that video, which I think is provided, or it's going to be provided, there were houses in the background. Those guns were fired 27 times. I think it's by the grace of God, people living in those homes in Arbor Park weren't also hit by this huge amount of gunfire. And so, thankfully, nobody else was hurt, but sadly, we had a 22-year-old individual who's lost his life, and his family will forever be impacted by that horrendous event.
I know one big topic when we talk about youth violence, I've been hearing from the city is parents, and if parents are involved in your children's lives. Have you talked to Antonio Baker's parents at all to learn?
I have not. That does not mean law enforcement has not reached out. I personally have not talked to his family, but I'm certain, given the fact that he is being sought out, I'm sure law enforcement would contact those families. But I have talked to the victim of that September 20th. I've talked to the mother of that individual. I've talked to a whole group of the family, and they are understandably destroyed and saddened by this senseless loss of life of an individual who was simply riding his bike away, and 27 shots were fired in his direction that caused his life to end. Thank you for your time, and let's hope we bring this safely to a conclusion. And I want to thank the U.S. Marshal Service as well as the Cleveland Police Department for their continued dedication in trying to bring this situation to an end. The last thing any of us want to see is another loss of life. Thank you.
All right, so that was Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Michael O'Malley.
I will provide a copy of the video to you momentarily.
All right, and the video is going to be sent out to media members momentarily here. I do want to pull up, we have the incidents listed, so we can just go through this together here. So this is last year, March and April. Kidnapping, aggravated robbery of a firearm, stole a gun on the 21st of March and bragged about it on social media, jumped a victim in their backyard and pulled a gun, preventing the victim from leave. Fast forward then to August 7th, attempted murder, victim shot 3 times in the abdomen. Then August 20th, attempted murder, shot victim 6 times. September 20th, aggravated murder, victim riding a bike away from a playground when shot. Baker shot the victim, and that person died right away. And it is believed that Baker was shot. They have 8-2 listed there. I believe that is supposed to be October 2nd at the bottom there. So that is supposed to be October 2nd. It is believed that Baker was shot near East 18th and St. Clair. This is a very active and evolving story here. We are going to wait to learn some more information, but that is at least what we know as far as the timeline goes for Antonio Baker, the man you're seeing on your screen there on the left-hand side. Those are photos from 2021. Trying to see if there's anything else here. Police are asking for help. Anybody who knows any information on the whereabouts of that person you're seeing on your screen, contact them immediately. U.S. Marshal Service involved in this as well. This is going to have multiple units, multiple different agencies responding to it. So yeah, they're going to look for any assistance that they can get with it. Okay, this very clearly will be one of our top stories of the day here at 19 News, and our news coverage is going to start in about 30 minutes over on CBS, so we hope to see you there. For now, I'm Jeff Sloss with 19 News. Have a great day. We're going to have much more to come, both on air and online, and anything that breaks in this story, we will provide to you as soon as possible.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 1035.